While at work, our client was approached by two seasoned investigators of the Orange County District Attorney's Office. He asked why were they there. They told our client, who was in his late 20s, that it would only take a minute or two and that they had some questions they would like answered. Unknown to our client, the conversation was being secretly recorded. He was asked questions about a criminal sex act that had allegedly happened a year earlier. For the first 30 minutes of the taped interview, you could hear our client responding with something like, "What are you guys talking about?" For the next hour or so, you could hear the detectives, twist and turn the conversation and questioning until they got our client to respond with something like, "Okay, if that's what you want me to say, then okay." And he made 6 to 7 similar responses or comments after the first one. What these detectives didn't know at the time of the interview is that many years earlier, while our client was a young boy, he had suffered a head injury that affected his ability to properly digest and process information. It was extremely difficult for him to understand what was asked of him, and it was also a challenge for him to participate in a normal conversation. For these reasons, the detectives were able to get our client to say what they wanted to hear. In fact, with the proper technique and expertise, we believe these two detectives could have probably gotten our client to admit that he was the man in the moon. In any case, our client was arrested and charged with 9 felonies. If found guilty, he would be sent to prison for 3 to 12 years, have a strike on his record, and also be required to register as a sex offender. His life, as he knew it, would be over. During our pre-trial investigation, we learned that the alleged victim had filed similar false reports twice in the past. And these reports were filed twice in the past couple of years. In both instances, she eventually admitted her untrue allegations, and she said she was simply trying to get attention. That's why she said the things that she said. We shared these prior similar cases with the District Attorney's Office, but it just didn't make a difference on how they were evaluating the case. After being unable to plea bargain or get the case dismissed, the case went to jury trial. The jury heard the hour-and-a-half taped interview. Because of his pre-existing head injury and our client's Fifth Amendment rights not to testify, we did not allow our client to take the stand and share his side of the story. Through experts, we did introduce evidence that each year in the United States, statistics show that about 1/3 of all confessions are false confessions. For many different reasons, the fact of the matter is that 1/3 of all innocent people charged with crimes will actually admit to the crime or say what they think the investigators or detectives want them to say. Frankly, we weren't aware of this startling statistic before we took this case on. Anyway, as for the trial, it was also disheartening and a big disappointment to learn that the trial judge would not allow the jury to hear about the 2 prior false charges this victim had brought against other men. We felt this victim's veracity and inability to tell the truth was relevant in this particular case, but the judge disagreed. Knowing the above, our trial proceeded to verdict. Now, I'm happy to report that the jury got it right, that after a week-long trial, our jury came back with a verdict of not guilty on all 9 charges. The jury had determined that our client did nothing wrong and that he was a free man. This innocent young man did not have to serve time in prison, and he did not have to register as a sex offender. It is also interesting to note that after the trial, several of the jurors who we talked to outside in the hallway were in tears, and they asked why these charges were brought against our wonderful client. I'll tell you what, even to this day, we continue to ask ourselves the very same question.